Okay, any questions on these tools? Any other questions?
I do have a question I wanted to ask.
Sure.
It the other day with Richard in class. I'm only on my 110 compressor right now, my 12 volt crap about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So before I had the leak, so now I'm running on my 110 as well.
Okay.
It's starting to raise the front because I dumped the air out, so now it's running. I can see it start to raise the front after a period of time. So now that I fixed the leak, well, I conquered that one leak. Now it's nice and level, right? So I thought it was always level, but now you can see it. Now, from yesterday when I had it fixed and I dropped it, it's come up about 1.5 inches or 2 inches raised up. So is that eventually just trying to raise the coach all the time?
No. Understand, the air's no different whether it's coming from your 12 volt compressor or your 110 or your engine compressor.
Right. But should it be?
It's air.
It shouldn't be. I'm saying what
It's
it should
compressed
be.
air.
Should be raising my coach.
No.
Well, no, it shouldn't. You probably, just off the top of my head, have a leaky six-pack valve. The up valve for the front is probably leaking. Okay? But understand, air's air, it's compressed air. If your engine's running, it supplies everything in your coach, the brakes, everything. Your 110 compressor does everything in your coach. Okay? 12 volt only has that check valve, so it's only doing a few things, and it depends on your coach. Mine does the slide seals. If you don't have slides, it's not doing your slide seals. Mine does the pocket doors. Mine does the toilets. I don't have an air door. If you have an air door, they had them hooked up to the air doors. But as they added a lot of these air components, the 12 volt was insufficient and they did away with the system totally. The ZF does not even have that supply tank in the right rear wheel well. So it doesn't have that closed system. But for the guys that have a 12 volt, you've got an advantage over the other because part of your air system has been made smaller, and so it's easier to look for leaks in that area. Okay, because it's already been contained down to a smaller group of things that can be going wrong. Okay. Any questions? Any questions on tools? Like I said, I posted pictures with descriptions. You should be able to look at those pictures and make any of this stuff up easily. Okay, we talked a little bit about where do air leaks occur. They occur anywhere that there's compressed air. My experience, I have not, other than one brake hose, I have not experienced any of this plastic tubing airline getting a hole in it on my coach. You can. I just haven't experienced it. I'm finding my air leaks mainly at components. Air dryers, solenoids, air tanks. I've replaced an air tank. You've replaced an air tank.
Replaced two.
There you go. The components in the air system have been my biggest nemesis. And connections. I have not found a lot of air leaks. Well, I haven't found any air leaks in airlines.
I have had a break in the airline that comes out of the back of the air ride driver's seat.
Right.
And it was, as you move the seat back and forward, that one flexes.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it popped on me one day.
yeah, and remember, just because I haven't had it happen It has happened because Russ White's coach went down on the wheels in the back, and it took out the 1/4-inch airline to a slide seal in the rear slide. Or you could get, just through time, working it back and forth, and all of a sudden it breaks or gets a hole in it, or something rubs on it. So it can happen. When I'm searching for air leaks, I don't discount the line. I just haven't found anything there. My goal, again, keep this in mind, for the 12-volt system, if you have a 12-volt system, or a 12-volt pump, I want that to run with, now that's with the 110 off, the engine not running, all the air drained out of the coach, and the 12-volt compressor on. You should now have 60 pounds. Okay? I don't want that to run any more than one time in 24 hours. There's not very many airlines coming off of there. On my coach, I've got a line that goes to the rear slide seal. I found a leak there. Newell puts a shutoff valve. They were a low plastic valve, leaked. I've got a line off of that 12-volt that goes to the front slide seal. Newell puts a little plastic shutoff valve, get leaked. Both, I've got a bath and a half airline off of that to the toilets. The toilets want 60 to 65 pounds of air pressure. There is constant, you have to check your toilets because there's constant pressure on your toilets. There's constant pressure on, you'll see a black line coming up to your handle. That's the first place it goes. That's the feed line that comes right off that 12-volt compressor or regulator. Comes up to the handle, goes in the handle on the inside of the toilet. You got two lines coming out. There's always pressure on one. When you flush, the pressure goes to the other. So that valve, the air sequence valve, it always has pressure on it. Always has pressure on it, has potential leak. Got to check there for leaks. Okay? Here's another thing that comes up. When you pull a handle, do you feel a little puff of air? Anybody feel a little puff of air when you? It's normal. Don't worry about it. It's designed to do that.
You know, Steve, just real quick, because I have an air door and so on and so on, so I leave my 12-volt compressor on all the time.
I do too.
And, well, and I've, had conversations with people through the years on why they did what they did. And if you're sound asleep 2 o'clock in the morning and wherever you're at loses power, your 110 compressor isn't running, your air leaks down, well, your 12 volts is going to take over for you, and you're not going to wake up in the morning and your door is going to be open. And,
Right. No, you're absolutely right. That's
that's what I found. I don't know if that's what they intended, but that's how I use it.
That is the intention is that 12 volt will get you through the night.
Yeah, it's a backup basically.
That's what it's intended for. Or if you're dry camping, it'll take a load off of your batteries. Okay? But that's what it's intended for. So, 12 volt compressor, we only want it to run one time in 24 hours. I've got the original 12 volt compressor in my coach. My coach is over 20 years old now. I've got the original 110 compressor. I don't want it to run more than twice in 24 hours. I don't know if you guys saw the head off of a compressor that was running a lot. It just burns up the reed valve. And then you're buying, I haven't bought one, what are they, $400 or $500?
600.
600?
I think they might be more.
If you don't want to be buying, you can buy compressors, or you can fix your air leaks. I'm fixing my air leaks. Okay. Now I'm gonna tell you, you need to develop a strategy and a method for finding your air leaks. I do the same process every time I start looking for air leaks. Because I've had my coach where I've met my goals. When I take it out on these super smooth highways and hit these super smooth potholes, and I get to the next destination, all of a sudden, my goal is gone again. So I've fixed air leaks many times. And if you're gonna go after air leaks, you're gonna fix them many times too. You're not gonna fix them one time. What I found very early on in Newell ownership is that the shotgun method does not work. If you're gonna just check this and check this and check this and check this, and Steve said he found one over here, you're wasting a whole bunch of time, and when you're all done, you're not gonna know what the hell you got. If you start making sheets like this and documenting where you're checking and how you're checking, and you check it the same way, I'll tell you how I do it. You don't have to do it the way I do it, but set yourself up a strategy and a method for finding your air leaks. And forget that you got one. Unless you fix one, and that compressor only runs twice in 24 hours, if that occurs, you fixed it, but that's not very often. Here's my method. I do this every time. I open R1, and that's where I start. Now, what do I have in R1 to check? I've got a 110 air compressor that goes to an air dryer, that goes to an air tank. Okay? I've also got a air valve that operates the generator going in and out. A lot of people forget about that. All this stuff has to be tested. I have schematiced every system in my coach. Okay, so I've got a schematic for my genset valve that tells me which one goes in and which one goes out, so that I know if I got an air leak, whether I got it done in or out. Okay. As I said, I'm going to hook up my leak detector right at the compressor. That's the easiest place. And I told you early on, I do things the easy way. But I'm going to stub off the air tank. That line from the air tank on my coach goes over to a distribution box underneath where the 6-pack is on the front. If I didn't stub that off, I'm trying to test half the coach. So I stub that off and I do my first test. If I have a leak, then I go component by component. I check the air dryer first. If it checks good, then I go on and check the air tank. Okay, you understand why I stubbed it off? So that I'm only checking right here, I'm isolating where the problem could be. If on that first test I don't find a leak, I'm going over to my valve that runs the generator in and out, and I'm checking both the in and the outside. Okay? Once I finish in R1, I close the door and I go to R2. Now you say, there's nothing in R2, there's no air components. Yeah, there is. You better look up in the top. A good chance you're going to find connections up there. If you don't, move on. If you do, it needs to be tested. Make sure that it's not leaking. On something like that, on a connection, I'm going to soap and water it and make sure it's not leaking. I'm not going to go to the trouble of putting this in. There's no need to. Okay, but just make sure you check that connection. Then I'm going to go to R3. I'm gonna do exactly the same thing, and I'm gonna keep moving on till I get to the 12 volt. How many people have 12 volt pumps in their coach?